You're listening to Two Mics and a Guest, a podcast of people's stories and the career pathway that led them to where they are. And now your hosts, Michael Holliday and Mike Young. Welcome everybody to Two Mics and a Guest. I am Michael Holliday. Joined with me, as always, is Mr. Mike Young. Mike, how are we doing today?
Doing great. Great to be here.
Yes, we have a virtual guest with us joining us today. Mike, who do we have today?
We have Natalie Rose. We're excited about this. She is a content creator on TikTok, Instagram, has the longest LinkedIn profile, I think, in the world, right? I mean, that's what we're shooting for this thing. Fantastic, and it's interesting, some of the things you're doing. Appreciate you being with us.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited, and I'm ready to jump in and start talking.
Sweet. So in research, we've looked, and someone else, our boss, actually aligned us with you and told us, hey, you should check this person out. She might be willing to come on the show. And we open up TikTok and Instagram and everything, and I open up TikTok first, and I see what everyone normally sees on TikTok first is that 2.5 M, that 2.5 million followers on TikTok. And I've got to ask, is that something that has gradually built? Did you have one or two videos that really helped launch and maybe went viral? Like, you know, we hear the viral term, but like, kind of give us that, like, how did we get such a massive following so fast? Or maybe it didn't happen so fast.
No, it still blows my mind. A lot of people call it overnight fame because of how quickly it did in fact happen. Before this trend that I had started, I had roughly 130,000 followers on TikTok. I had posted lots of content prior to what I'm doing now.
Sure.
And all it took was that one video. And when I say one video, I mean one video.
Wow.
In a matter of 3 weeks, I went from 130,000 followers to 2.5 million followers.
And what were your other platforms doing roughly around that time? I mean, Instagram or Twitter or anything else? Did you have a following there beforehand?
So I don't have a Twitter, so 0.
Okay, sorry.
And for Instagram, I did not connect my Instagram to my TikTok until maybe 3 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
So my following count on Instagram has gone up significantly, but not nearly as much as TikTok because I was still in that mindset of wanting to keep something in my life private.
Right.
But I realized how much it was hurting me more than it was helping me.
Right.
So I have, I think, 86,000 followers now on Instagram, but I had maybe like 800 followers.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Family, friends, people like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, it's amazing what this is. Like even old dudes like me know about the guy on the skateboard with the Fleetwood Mac song. You know, I mean, people blow up like this, right? And we can't comprehend what 2.5 million means when you start talking about all of this. I mean,
my closest assimilation is going to a pro football game, and there's roughly 70,000 people there, and then to try to equate that to 2.5 million. Hurts my head right now. I can't visualize that. Do you ever go, oh, like before you hit publish or before you hit send, like, do you ever just think like, oh, this is going out to a huge audience?
No, I don't think, and I'm kind of with you on that. I don't know if that's maybe a good thing or a bad thing that I can't wrap my head around it.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, in this situation, I kind of feel like ignorance is bliss because
Right.
I'm just like 2.5 million. Okay. Like,
Yep.
But then when you put it in perspective, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
that's
See,
a lot
Michael,
of
you
people.
screwed it up. You've got it in her head now that it's going to be 2.5
she's
million.
just having fun with it. She's now she's going to overanalyze it. Maybe I don't know, but
Like, oh my gosh.
So what was the video that did it?
Yeah, I made a video with a coworker at work, and we were in scrubs, and we were doing a 9-second dance, just trying to be funny. And there were certain comments that came in of people saying, gosh, like, it's always nurses that are screwing around, or remember when you're supposed to be a nurse? taking care of people,
Right.
saving lives, but instead you're making TikToks at work.
Right.
And I was so irritated with that because I was thinking, wow, this person clearly has me pegged, knows me and my whole life story in a nutshell. I just got so irritated with it. So I made a second video, a reply comment. So his comment was in the top corner, and I did the same dance, same song, scrubs, different coworker, and I held up a sign and I said, I'm not a nurse. So there goes your theory.
Wow.
And so
well played, by the way.
That's a
well
classy,
played.
a classy clapback, as we call it, right? It was just,
yeah. Like, I'm not a nurse. And so in my caption, I put in, let's try and guess this will be fun. Like, let's try and guess what I do for a living. And there were some genuine guesses. There were people trying to ask or guess, like, oh, if she's not a nurse, she's a dental hygienist. She's a vet tech. She's a ultrasound tech.
What else uses scrubs?
Right. And then that's when the funny comments came in. People were saying, no, she's a garbage truck driver. She's a janitor. And I just thought, oh, that is so genius of these people to post that. I think that's hilarious. And then I saw she's a firefighter. And I said, oh my gosh, I have access to someone who is a firefighter where I could very easily get in their turnouts, put on the outfit, do the same dance and say, nope, you got it wrong. What's next?
Wow.
That's very cool.
That's so interesting how your audience help you kind of pick what avenue you might go down with this platform.
The internet can be awesome. Yeah. I mean, it just can be, right? Go ahead.
It can. Yeah. And I was just going to say it's definitely helped make me become more viral because you have to find a niche, and that niche is finding a way to get your followers to interact with you in some shape or form. So they're the ones deciding what I'm doing next. I'm just sifting through thousands of comments, picking which one it is, you know?
Right.
And so now it's not necessarily about what I do anymore. It's about what can we get? What uniform can we get her in next? Where can we get her to go next? Yeah. Which is so fun.
Well, it is fun. And looking through LinkedIn, you see all of these cool experiences that you've been able to have, but it also points to some different careers and stuff that people may not have thought about. It's kind of a cool opportunity for that too, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I wanted to kind of take it in a direction where it was more so bizarre jobs and it was funnier in that sense.
Right.
So people were like, oh, she's a beekeeper? Wait, that's hilarious.
I circled beekeeper on there. I did. I circled beekeeper.
How did
I was going to ask
she
about
get in
it.
contact with a beekeeper? And where did she get a beekeeping suit? And I think it was people trying to feel like, well, I'm going to put this bizarre job and let's see if she can make it happen. And then being able to prove them right and go, yeah, I did it. Like
challenge accepted. I'm all in, right?
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic.
Can we step back just for a moment and go back to maybe high school, Natalie? And what is, I mean, where do we grow up at? Where are we based out of initially?
Yeah, I'm based out of the Pacific Northwest, Oregon.
Okay.
And
love that area.
I mean, it's beautiful.
Absolutely.
So I grew up hiking, jumping off waterfalls, swimming in the Columbia Gorge, things like that.
Sounds terrible.
That was just kind of my life. It was awful. I felt like I was in jail. Just kidding. Yeah. So high school now, I don't know. What do you want to know?
So did we have did we have a career not in social media that young Natalie was like, oh, I want to be this or I want to be that? And then did we go to college? Did we start down an avenue and then this happened? Or did this happen at a young enough age where you're like, oh, this is just where I'm going with this?
Good question. So growing up, I was not really allowed to have a lot of social media. So to answer that question, no, that was not something I always thought I was going to have or do. And quite honestly, like even to this day, posting on Instagram for me, I feel like it's such a chore. I have the hardest time wanting to create content for Instagram, but TikTok is very fun. But in high school, I felt very lost. I felt very confused because all of my friends or a lot of people in my class kind of knew what they wanted to do already. I felt very limited because My mom is a single parent, so I kind of knew the realistic side of what I would or wouldn't be able to afford for school without the help of my parents or with the help of government funding or whatever it was. I knew realistically where I was going to fit in a certain category, unless I wanted to go into like major debt. So I was very lost for about the first 3 years of school. It wasn't until my senior year of high school where I really kind of buckled down and I figured out what I wanted to do. And thankfully I found it and I did it. And I love what I went to school for. 100%. I still actually practice and do what I went to school for.
But she's not supposed to say. Nope. Can't guess.
Nope. But I can't say. That's what's so hard. Yeah. So, but I can say it. You know, it's normal and it's okay to not know what the heck you want to do with your life until you know what you want to do. So I think don't just settle for something because you feel like all your other friends are choosing it. And I kind of did that for a minute. I remember feeling like a lot of my friends wanted to go. All of my friends went to like 4-year universities and they were all rooming together. And I was kind of like, I like the idea of just going to a 4-year university or this specific 4-year university because that's where all my friends are. And it'd be easy. It'd be easy to just room with them, not have to get to know new people. Yeah. And I almost did it. And I was like, what am I doing? The idea of this school like makes me want to throw up. So,
exactly.
So I had to kind of step back and remind myself your career is not based on what your friends think is cool or what they want you to do. It's what I want to do. So I had to kind of figure that out for myself for a hot second. And then I figured it out and I did it and I would never go back.
It's such a huge thing, Natalie. I mean, I see that with students all the time. I used to work on a college campus, working here with high school students as well. And so many times students are making decisions based on what someone else thinks rather than the human being they are, right? And really being confident in that person and who they are. And I just see that as an important thing, right? Yep. I mean, was there some individual, like some teachers or something that helped you see that? Or was it, how'd you come to see that? Of being able to, and again, I've seen students go because their friends went there and it just basically extended high school, right? All the drama from high school gets transferred to the college campus and they miss out on some of that. How did you have that realization?
I think through having a good village of people behind me, whether that was my yearbook teacher was a huge asset to that. I did not step foot into the college and career center of my high school until I was a senior in high school. So I wish I could say like my counselors, they were great assets, but they weren't. And that was probably my fault, not because they weren't good people, just because I didn't set foot in there. So maybe if I would have gone in there earlier, like as a sophomore, even, I think by building a relationship with those teachers, they could have been a huge asset, but they just weren't. So, church leaders, they were amazing help to me, as well as my yearbook teacher and my sisters. And I had no problem asking people, especially certain people in my congregation at church. I remember going and talking with them and saying like, what do you do for a living? Or what does your husband do for work? And just to kind of get ideas. Yeah. And then I found the profession that I went into from someone at church. That's how I found out. I was like, I didn't even know you could do that. I didn't even know that was a job that people could have. And then that's when I knew this is what I want to do. So and I'm so thankful I moved out of state for school. And I'm so glad I did that because like what you said, Mike, about people just kind of going, it's just like a continuation of high school. It's just like they never leave that phase. Yep. And I moved and I lived in Utah for 5 years and then I just came home back to Oregon. And then this is when this happened. So this whole thing was never part of the 5-year plan.
No. Well, who could plan for that, right? I mean, honestly, if you plan for it, it's probably not going to happen sometimes. And the viral thing, right? I mean, that's just kind of,
I know.
Who can prepare for that?
And we've had a ton of previous guests. I think this is episode 14 now. We've had other guests that said, this is where I was headed. And then this opportunity arose and I went down that path. Like this presented itself and I was like, let's let's go there. And that's kind of what you're talking about there is, oh, this came up, it presented an opportunity, and I went with it.
Absolutely. I had a very long, hard conversation with my godfather about going into this side of the industry, content creator, influencer, whatever it is you want to call it.
Right.
He's a very, very wise man, and he is very smart when it comes to finances and making your money work for you and whatnot. He's in real estate, so shocker, right? So he goes, of all the people, I thought he would be the one who would say, no, don't do this. Like, you went to school for this. You make an amazing paycheck doing what you do. You love what you do, and it's consistent, right? He was the one who sat me down and he said, he uses the word babe. He's like, babe, you need to jump on this opportunity. Even if this is just a wave that you're riding,
write it.
You start something, write it, and then you start something new, because you have 2.5 million eyes watching you every day. So start something new if this wave dies. Like, I just was not expecting that from him. And it was some of the best advice I got. It was, a lot of people don't get this opportunity, and it's a matter of how you choose to act on this opportunity. Are you going to let it fade away, or are you going to just create amazing experiences from it and do it? And I did it. It was kind of like that little push that I needed that I didn't know I needed.
Well, again, and there's some confidence he instilled in you with that. I've had people ask what I want a student to get. If I could give them confidence in themselves, that would be what I would want to do. I mean, whatever their interest might be, to be able to do that. And I think it's cool that he said and gave you the encouragement to step into that opportunity, right? And it's probably sounds like from looking at your LinkedIn, how many, these cool experiences that you've had as you've taken this ride, right?
Yeah, it has been amazing. And I think that the biggest type of advice I would give to anyone, even regardless of whatever career you're going into, is don't be afraid of rejection and don't be afraid to fail. Because a lot of people on my page, so, I pose as a new profession every single day. And so I have to insert myself into people's lives. And a lot of people think that I have connections with these particular jobs or these professionals. And to an extent, I have some connections. Like, my brother-in-law was the firefighter, so it was easy to get to a fire station. But the police officer, for example, I did not know who that man was from Adam. I drove around town for 20 minutes looking for a cop car. I was like, I'm making a police officer video today. This is my intent. I need to go find a police officer. So I drove around looking for a police officer, and sure enough, I found two cops in the middle of issuing a woman a ticket on the side of the road. And I pulled over and I sat and I waited. And in those 5-10 minutes, you're like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I going to say? And you just get out of the car, and I ran over there after he was done and I introduced myself. You just have to be okay with inserting yourself into people's lives if you want to progress in any career. But, thankfully that cop, they said yes. They were like, heck yeah, this is going to be so fun. Let's do this. So then any opportunity after that, I thought every person was going to say yes. Nope. Absolutely not. I go into Home Depot, I go into Best Buy to say, clearly she works for Home Depot, she works for Best Buy. They shot me down so hard. And it was embarrassing
hard. Is it because it's a larger corporation? Is that why maybe? Or just
and they said no, everything has to go they're like, everything has to go through corporate. And I was like, whatever, I'm just going to go to a different Best Buy then. But that was my mindset. It wasn't like tail tuck between my legs, walk out the store, go curl up in the fetal position. Someone rejected me. I'm so sad and I never want to do this ever again. And that's where a lot of people stop. They just end it there and they say, nope, this is too hard.
That's so wise, Natalie, because you can approach those situations and realize this isn't about me, right? It's about them, and not even condemning that. They've got a boundary for whatever reason. You had some boundaries too, that this is what I'm doing. They're not going to determine that, right? So I'm going to just go the next one.
Yeah. So point of that is just anybody going into any career field, maybe you don't get that job. Maybe you failed that interview, or you just bombed it, or you got in trouble by your boss because you were unaware of a certain policy. A lot of people will cower after that and just say, oh my gosh, I'm not good at this. I'm not meant to do this. And they run. And some people end up quitting because of it, over it. And so it's just be moldable, be okay with constructive criticism, and be okay with failure. I mean, some of the greatest people in our society today, like J.K. Rowling, writing Harry Potter, she was rejected by so many publishers before she even got to put out her book. And imagine if she just would have stopped.
Yeah, exactly. Or before that, what if she just crumpled it up and like, oh, this might not be good enough, and they didn't have that internal self-confidence,
Got to put it out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So one of my previous gigs, I've spent some time doing some photography and videography work for artists out of Nashville. We're about an hour. We're about an hour south of Nashville here, and I know for them, and this can kind of go with you as a content creator. If you want to get a hold of or book an artist, there's a management team that you reach out to. You talk to them. You're not talking directly to these big time artists or even a smaller artist. In content creation,
you might not be, but I am.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
In content
you're
creation,
going to try. You're not going to say no.
True. When you get to a certain size or whatnot, do you have some team members around you, or is this still all just organically you going out and finding these police officers and things like that?
Well, it's a great question. I have a brand manager who's wonderful. He helps me with negotiation deals. He helps me review contracts, things that might kind of raise red flags and whatnot. For control purposes, I'm a very controlling person, and I can admit that. A lot of the stuff still comes through me because I like the fact that it comes to me and I can review the emails, see what's being pitched, and then if I want it to move forward and I need someone's help, I will refer it to my brand manager to help me kind of get the ball rolling with it.
Sounds like she's the songwriter and the artist when it comes to that.
That sounds like it.
Conceptualizing and creating. That's awesome.
Yes.
What's been some of your favorite experiences that you've been able to do in this? The favorite jobs that you've been able to jump into?
Yeah, how do you end up in Indianapolis with the cheerleaders for the Colts from the Pacific Northwest?
I was going to say, that was probably one of my favorite collaborations I have done, is working with the Colts period, you know, the cheer team, the mascot, where they put me up in a hotel, everything. They just went above and beyond. The gentleman who is Blue, the mascot, I can very confidently say that he is now family. That whole team, they just brought me in and they made me feel so comfortable. And that was one of the few collaborations where unfortunately I had to go alone.
Right.
I typically always try to have my assistant or a family member with me whenever I go to any collaboration for behind the scene purposes and safety purposes. But this one particularly, I had to go by myself. I was very nervous being in Indianapolis alone, not knowing where the heck I was. And the only time I spent in my hotel room is when I went to sleep. They had me in the stadium all day. We went out to dinner afterwards. We were out until like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. I got to spend time with both the Seahawks mascot as well as the Colts mascot. We all went to dinner together, and their marketing team, you know, took us all out. And gosh, it was so much fun. And it's hard because with some collaborations, you don't know, like, you kind of let them set the bar for the level of professionalism they want you to be when you're there. So, you know, I'm always like prim and proper. I'm like, yeah, okay, hi, like, let's do this collaboration. No, they were hilarious. Like, they were just throwing jabs, like bantering back and forth. It was so easy to work with them. And the cheer team, oh my gosh, I was very intimidated with the idea of being an NFL cheerleader, thinking we're talking women who are drop dead gorgeous, like in perfect shape and everything. And I'm like, and
athletes themselves. I mean, it's incredible, right?
They made me feel so comfortable. They helped me get into my uniform. We just kind of hung out on the field and laughed, and we took many takes of the video. We have so many bloopers from it. We're all just laughing. I just felt like I was vetted into the cheer team, and it was so fun. It was an amazing experience.
I've heard you mention on a previous interview when you worked with the Detroit Lions also that their media manager was someone who was like really, really good at their job. I see a trend here where the NFL, it seems like, has really embraced social media platforms for a way to advertise and get things out and communicate with their fans. Yeah. Is that something you've seen also?
Yes. Some teams are better than others, naturally. Some teams might have more of a traditional view with social media and might not feel or see the importance behind it, which is totally fine. But social media and marketing are like running with the wind. It is insane. It's just the way it's going now is with social media. And so, yes, to answer your question, Neil is his name. He is over all of the social media for the Detroit Lions. And I will say, I feel for any NFL social media account, he is on the ball the most. Meaning, when people tag like Detroit Lions in anything, he is always clapping back and responding. He's kind of deciding, he's like, no, we're going to be kind of like a sassy account. Right. We're going to,
like the Wendy's account. The Wendy's account on Twitter or whatever platform is so great.
Exactly. So he was the one who initially reached out, and my first big NFL collaboration was with the Lions. And he did tell me, he goes, I just want you to know our rival team is with the Colts, and I wouldn't be surprised if after we pump out this video, they're going to reach out to you. And he was 100% right. Wow. He knew that the Colts would reach out. And so I love that I've kind of created this little tug of war game between NFL teams. And now that football is going to be coming to an end, it's now going to be like basketball. And now we've got hockey. Yeah. So it's
you guys have
fun for sure.
You guys have a new hockey team up there in the Seattle area, right?
The Kraken. Yeah. Yes.
I've seen you do some stuff with them, right?
I think you need to be with my Saints. I think you need to go down to New Orleans and do my Saints.
Yeah. He's a big Saints guy. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, so we're
we like our Colts around here though, because Peyton Manning was the guy in Tennessee still. So Now, it's interesting to me listening to you talk about all that. A lot of folks, obviously, an NFL team is a huge enterprise. We all know that. Most people just think players and coaches, but man, you've listed so many levels of team that goes into that, and from the social media to the marketing to the, you name it.
Game day, meal prep.
Oh my gosh.
There's so much.
There's so many opportunities for that, right?
Absolutely. I think I like being able to not fit the stigma of a football player though. So that's why I try to be that person that's like, no, I'm going to be the football player. I was actually talking to someone about this the other night, how UFC, when I worked with UFC, they initially reached out to me and they said, we want to do a collaboration with you. And immediately when a company reaches out to me, my creative wheels have to automatically start turning, thinking, okay, what could I be in this situation? And their response to me was, we would love it if you would be one of our Octagon girls. And I said, no, I want to be the fighter. I want to be one of the Octagon girls.
You go. That's what I like.
I like to just,
I love that.
I like to go against the grain and just not necessarily fit the mold of what a traditional person might look like for that job. And that's why I realized I could go somewhere with this whole trend and kind of shed the light on different professions and highlight jobs that people maybe didn't even know existed.
Now, I talked about your favorite. What was the hardest one you did?
You don't have to be super specific with
No, that's true. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. What was the most intriguing thing?
I don't think the most what?
I said it. I'm trying not to throw any of your experiences under the bus. What was it? You've got some unique things that you've done. Beekeeper, you mentioned as well.
Yeah. And truthfully, all of them, I've been very fortunate with every single one of my collaborations. I don't feel like any of them have been per se hard. I think when I consider hard, it might have been either the travel time, right? The quick get in, get out kind of thing was maybe what made, if I had to think of one, is what made it difficult, but never never a certain brand that I worked with made it difficult or challenging for me. I'm genuinely trying to think, like, I remember, this is like a great example. I remember I had a collaboration set up with Carnival Cruise, and we have had to reschedule it multiple times because either my schedule doesn't line up or something comes up, or like I was on the plane ready to go to Florida. I was going to Miami, and the captain of the flight said, we have to deboard everyone. Like the plane's not working. And so when I got off the plane, I knew I was going to miss my connecting flight from Portland to, I don't even know where it was, probably Atlanta, like from Portland to Atlanta, and then Atlanta to Miami. And it's like, you're going to miss your connecting flight. And that trip was only going to be 48 hours, like including travel time in both of those 48 hours. Wow. So like that was challenging because like we were never able to get it pumped out, which sucked. So yeah, I wonder, I feel so confident with the Colts that I should have just said, yeah, working with Blue sucked. He was the worst.
He's the worst. And he'll be listening. No, I'm just kidding. We would never ever ask how much you make, but I want to dive into when you're starting out. How do you know? I mean, I'm assuming you're working with your team person here. How do you know how much to charge for a certain thing? Or do you reach out to other content creators to ask them? Like, how do we go about this? And then come tax season, is it miserable to claim taxes if you're a self-employed content creator? You don't have to delve into too deep of this, but
no, it's all great questions.
Like, how do you make a genuine living off of this? Is the gist of the question.
Yeah, you have to try and find a way to monetize yourself, or find long-term deals with brands. A lot of what I do is called one-off deals. So a company will pay you X amount of dollars to come out, and you can film with them, and you decide what those terms are, what your deliverables look like, meaning your deliverables are 2 TikTok posts and 1 Instagram post, or an Instagram story post and something put on your Instagram reels. Gotcha. You know, you decide what those are. I, for the first like month of doing it, was, I was very affordable. We'll just I was so uneducated. I had no idea that companies will 2.5 million people will pay a lot, or companies will pay a lot of money for 2.5 million people to see something.
Yes.
And so the way that my brand manager kind of put it in perspective for me was that you have to look at your platform, your TikTok channel, as a network, like ABC, NBC, HGTV, you know, so companies pay those programs a lot of money to put a commercial on, you know, a 30-second commercial. And he kind of put it into perspective for me that the views that I'm generating on my page is more than what ABC can put out for a Grey's Anatomy commercial.
That's almost word for word. I follow Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, and that's almost word for word what he was saying when people who were old industry heads were so confused by this up and coming generation of influencers or content creators, whatever you want to call it. They could go and spend millions of dollars to film a traditional commercial that might get 500,000 views on ABC or on traditional TV platforms. But for you or someone like you that has such a big audience, they can pay you the same or less or whatever it might be, the X amount, and reach a bigger audience. So it makes more sense that you are your own network, like you said.
Correct. Yeah. And I mean, we're talking, some of my most trending videos, we're looking at like 35 million views. Wow. It's not even 500,000. Like,
we're talking, one thing is followers, the other is the views, right?
Yeah.
Followers and versus views it's 2 different things. And traditional ads, you're not clicking on a link.
Yeah.
You know, the interaction that you get in social media is unique, really.
Yeah. So I think it's just important to do your homework, do your research. You can most certainly reach out to other content creators. I never had to.
Right.
I feel like I was able to get a lot of knowledge from my brand manager, Kyle, because of that.
Yep.
So I feel like I was very easily taken care of in that sense and kind of corrected, like, nope, you need to have this mindset now. Because for me, that stupid little monster in the back of your head tells you, like, I am not worth that. Nobody's going to pay that amount of money for me to post something on my page. And then that's when you have like to check yourself and say, no, you are. Let me like, if you want me to mathematically break it down so you can see like what is it called? Like a CPM or whatever it is that like a actual TV network channel pays per minute for, you know, he's like, if you want to break it down this way so you can see like they're getting a steal of a deal for you, from you, you know, and you're still doing good for yourself.
Both parties will leave happy.
Correct. So you have to change your mindset and understand that there are marketing budgets. There are companies that have the budget to want to pay people to do that stuff. It's just finding the right companies to do it.
Sure.
And then
find a Kyle. And then find a Kyle, right? That's important too.
Yeah. Find a Kyle for sure. So taxes, thankfully, my godfather, since he's in real estate, he's had to do the same type of taxes process, like
commission
with W-9s
type paid.
And he's been very helpful. I have an accountant, long story short.
Yeah.
So
as you should.
Yeah.
No, I was self-employed at one time, and the taxes are different. It's a big deal. Now I've done my taxes for years and years, still do them, but it's better to have an accountant. I'm just saying, true. It's better to have an accountant.
Because, and I don't know about for you, but I know in the NFL, because I have a friend who was a former kicker in the NFL, and he said that when they go play, like he was out of Philadelphia, and when they would go play a game in Atlanta, you're playing and you're getting paid on that day that you're in Atlanta. So your taxes, you have to pay taxes to the state of Georgia because you got paid in Georgia for that away game. And so if you
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. And if you don't have an accountant that knows how that works, all of your road games,
done.
You'd be done for. Because you have to pay taxes to the state that you got paid in. And
it's funny because it's definitely a different mindset when you get a paycheck. We'll just say like, I don't know, we'll just say like $5,000. Okay. You get something for $5,000. And for a lot of people, that's like, whoa, like I have $5,000, you know?
Actually, you don't, right?
You don't. And it's not like you can just go blow that money off. Like it's so fun to see like your bank account building and building, but you're like, well, I have to take 30% of that and I have to put that in this account because this is what's going to be for taxes. And I have to take this out because this is what I'm paying myself to survive for the next 2 weeks. It's like you are your own employer and you have to almost pay yourself every 2 weeks. Like, okay, well, this is what I can live off of every 2 weeks. So this is what I'm paying. And then this is going into savings. And this is what's going to help me survive because I don't have maybe a collaboration deal for the next month. So now it's okay, I have to find the next deal, you know, and it's never ending.
And unfortunately, this is where you see a lot of these documentaries of these athletes. If we go back to athletes, they become broke pretty fast because they maybe don't have that knowledge or that person.
Well, even folks in traditional gigs. I mean, we had a realtor on here a few weeks ago, and that was one of the things she talked about her job as a realtor, but one of the things she's really passionate about working with young kids to know how to manage their finances, how to get credit.
Yeah.
And the key thing about credit is not that big number that the limit is. It's having it available and not using it all, right? I mean, it's a lot of things like that that students don't realize sometimes, quite frankly. And so,
it's very easy to look at when you get a paycheck or you see what's in your bank account and you think, oh, I could buy a new car. No, you can't. No, you literally can't.
If any students, any high school age people are listening, if you don't take anything away from this other than that, just know that is a very important nugget of information she just gave us.
Well,
don't buy a car.
Yeah,
exactly. Because that sticker price is just the tip of the iceberg.
Live within your means, please. Yeah.
No, that comes up all the time. And again, I think you're wise to have that advice from your uncle, I believe it was. Was it your uncle? You said there was a realtor? Is that correct?
Oh, no, my godfather.
Your godfather.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's important to do that. It was also important for you to listen. there's a skill that you've kind of developed there. These are some people that'll give me some good advice. I'm actually going to listen to.
And we don't always want that advice. It's not fun, but we need it.
Right.
Oh yeah, I know. Sometimes I'm like, everything doesn't have to be a life lesson. Let's just have a conversation, okay?
It's very true.
Well, okay, you're sitting here with the current situation you're in. What would you tell that your younger self back in high school when you're like couldn't envision, you could not envision what you couldn't envision hanging out with the Colts and doing all that kind of stuff? What would you tell that young kid?
I think just don't limit yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Stop thinking that you're only worth so much.
Mm-hmm.
I used to really think that because I grew up in a certain social class,
Right.
because I had a single mom, we were on welfare. I just always thought that that's just what my life was going to be. I just thought this is the, like, these are the cards that I've been dealt. This is how I have to make the best of it. And I just have to survive, you know? And I'm so glad that I didn't listen to that voice. And I'm so glad that I just, like, I persevered. I was persistent. I kept going. And so I would just remind myself, I would tell myself, like, you are worth so much.
That's so important.
You have something about you that people need to hear and people need to see. So just keep going. Because high school sucks. High school is stupid.
Yeah. It does.
It is not. Whoever tells you that high school is the best 4 years of your life, like, they need to, like, retract that statement.
So
because
visually...
if high school was supposed to be the best 4 years of my life, like, then the rest of my life must really suck.
We touched on that in a previous episode where in high school, your world is so small. Like, whatever size community, whatever size high school you're at, like, that's all that you're thinking about necessarily most of the time. And that's your whole world. So if you're struggling in school or you don't like where you're at, it's hard to envision what we call the real world or things past that. But once we go off to college or maybe after college, we realize, like, oh, like, I'm bigger than just what I'm in right now. Like, I have this broad thing. And so that's why I feel like high school for some students and some kids is just so limiting. And that's why you feel all those emotions of, oh, I don't like this place, or I don't like this teacher, I don't like this community, or I don't feel like this is my group, my people.
Yeah. So. And I think it says a lot about an individual to have the courage to acknowledge that as well, because we obviously do better in the comfort of what we know.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's easier to stay put. It's easier to stay in your hometown. Yeah. It's easier to maybe stay with that one person you've dated for the last 4 years because that's all you've known, right?
Right.
I'm thinking of, like, all my siblings and relationships and stuff. I'm like, it's easier, right? But it's not easier to say, I'm not happy here. It's not easier to pack up your truck and move across the state or across the country.
Right.
It's not easy to make new friends going to a completely different college, not knowing who your roommates are going to be. It's hard. It is hard. But it is the most rewarding thing you can do for yourself.
We forget
it just creates,
it's our story to write, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times we assume somebody else's story. We assume this is what's expected of me, and this is all I'm going to be. I'm just in this small town, and this is what I'm going to be about. We get to write the story.
Yep.
We get to do that. And I appreciate how you were able to do that and see that, and also recognize the good advice you had from some folks to say, you can do more than that.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's
absolutely
fantastic.
And life gets really fun and interesting.
No, go ahead.
Life gets really fun and interesting when you push those comfort zone boundaries, right?
Absolutely. And don't get me wrong, there are times when even what I'm doing now, like I'm back home. I'm back in Oregon, but I've had this, like, world adventure, right? Where I've lived by myself and I did the whole college thing and whatnot. But there are times when I still go and I go travel and I do collaborations. And at the end of the day, I go back to a hotel and I'm alone and I get sad and it's hard.
Yeah.
What a lot of people see is, oh my gosh, it'd be so fun to be her and to go and do all these collaborations. And I'm not going to lie, it is fun. It is so fun in those moments. But then at the end of the day, like, you're tired and you're lonely and you're sad and you have panic attacks and I have anxiety attacks and I get depressed over things a lot. And that's just the normal ups and downs of life though. And if you can learn to accept that like this is normal, it's okay.
Well, I'm really glad you bring that up. We've had a couple of guests that have talked about their anxiety and dealing with those kind of things. And, every hotel looks alike after you stay in a few of them. They all look alike. And it could be in that lonely place. If it's not too personal, I would love to know what is your strategy to help you deal with that anxiety? Because we've got a lot of students that do deal with that. What would you tell them?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm no doctor, but
I'm not. No, and I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
But you may have stayed in the Holiday Inn last night. But I'm not joking.
Disclaimer ahead. Yeah.
Okay. What works for me? So.
And look, I didn't mean to put you on the spot with that. It is what works for you, but I think it's something that you're bringing up something that I'm hearing over and over and over again from students. And one, it's good for them to know they're not alone in that. I think you saying that out loud is a big deal, and I appreciate that. But what were you going to say?
I've learned that the best type of medicine to help with my anxiety is either like breathing exercises or doing something that I know makes me happy. Even if that's just taking out my phone, watching New Girl on Netflix for an episode so I can calm down. If that's what I need to do, then that's what I have to do in those situations. But you also have to push yourself out of your comfort zone. If you let your anxiety take over, you'll never be able to say that you've won that battle. You'll never be able to say that you've been able to do certain experiences because of it.
Right.
Like you're letting it win. I was recently in Chicago. I went to Chicago to work with the Bulls. And that was a collaboration I went to by myself. Chicago's a big city. It was my first time ever being to Chicago. And there was a sadness that overcame me while I was there because I realized how much I wish I was sharing this experience with someone and that I was wishing I wasn't alone. And so I had to take a step back and ask myself, okay, why am I sad right now? Why am I feeling anxious? And it was because I was alone. And I didn't like the idea that after the collaboration was done, I was going to go back to my hotel and just be by myself. So I forced myself. I mean, I wish someone could have been a fly on the wall because I went from sitting in the corner like this in the hotel to sitting on the bed like this to going into the bathroom and looking at myself in the mirror, to changing my outfit 50 times, to try to convince myself to just get out of the hotel. Like, go look up some places where there's some restaurants, go sit at the bar where there's a TV. Nobody's going to watch you. Like, that's the thing that gives me anxiety is that people are going to be watching that I'm alone, sitting by myself and think, haha, she's a loser. Like, it's so stupid, and it might be a female thing, truthfully. But, and so I did. What should have only taken me 5 minutes took me a good 45 minutes to like get out the door and go to a restaurant and sit down and order food and be okay sitting by yourself. But guess what? Who cares if it was 45 minutes? I did it. I did it.
I think that's a key point. I think that's a great point, Natalie. I do.
And I see so many similarities. Again, going back to a musical artist, if you're on stage in front of 10, 20,000 people and they're all chanting your name and singing all your lyrics back to you, when you're done, you go back to the back bunk of that bus or you go back to that hotel room and it's just you with your thoughts. And that fan base is not in front of you anymore. And then all these thoughts and feelings come into your head, and sometimes you're alone out on the road and you're in these cities you don't know with people you don't know. And you can pick up your phone, but that's not the same, feeling. But I see a lot of connection and similarity to that is you have a fan base or you have an audience, and then sometimes you're not, and you don't, and you're by yourself in your own thoughts, and
The other thing I was thinking, I think that's a great point. I think one thing you alluded to, Natalie, and talked about that experience. We all have the tapes that we play in our head, and those are the things that animate us sometimes. And sometimes they're just dead wrong, quite frankly. There's this thing created in our head, somebody's looking at me, or somebody's going to think I'm a loser. And that's all, that's the tape in your head, right? Yep. You press play on that tape on a regular basis. And sometimes we start believing that, and being able to change the tape is a big deal. Yep. Being able to have the confidence to change the tape is a big deal, I think.
Yeah. And then the thing that like was so great from that whole experience is that when I went out and I did it, I sat at the bar and I was watching UGA play, and I was watching the game, and this wonderful woman came and sat next to me, and she was from Nashville, and she works for like a record label. Nice. And we just hit it off. We had so much fun. I didn't feel like I was sitting and eating alone. I felt like I was at lunch with my girlfriend. It was awesome. Was so much fun. And I know that that's not going to happen every single time, but I do think that, you know, I get mad at myself when, okay, I'm going to kind of ADD here for a second, but like
go for it.
When I would go to like a new congregation, like a new church or something, right. I would talk to the bishop and I would say, oh, I feel so alone. I feel like nobody is coming, like no one ever comes up and says hi to me. Nobody ever acknowledges me. And he'll go, okay, well, like when you come into church, where are you sitting? Where do you sit? And I was like, well, I sit like in the back. And he's like, okay. Right. And you sit alone? You sit by yourself? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, next time you go to church, I'm making you, and this is me telling you, giving you an assignment. You're going to walk in. You're going to go sit in the second row. I won't make you sit in the first row, but you're going to sit in the second row, and you are going to introduce yourself to someone and say, hi, I'm Natalie. Can I sit next to you? Why are you putting so much pressure on everybody else when you're not the one taking the initiative for yourself? And I think I think about that all the time. So that's why I feel like I have no problem inserting myself into people's lives. So like when I go to a restaurant and I sit at a bar or something, I'm not going to be like, I'm going to wait for them to talk to me. Right. Because I'm better, because they should be the one to say hi to me. No, I'm going to turn to you and be like, hi, where are you from? Are you from here? Like, is Chicago your home? And that's exactly what happened. And if I wouldn't have been the one to like acknowledge her, who knows if we would have ever had the conversation.
Right. No, I think that's great. No, that's not ADD either. I think it's become, you've developed a muscle for yourself that is stronger now. I'm sure the first time you went and sat on the second pew, it was like, and I'm not sure about that. And it's something it's a skill. It's something you build, and it's been worth it for you, right? Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Some of my favorite memories of my travels before in past gigs has been people that I did not plan to meet. Yeah. But either sitting alone at a restaurant or sitting at a bar, sitting somewhere, it's been fabulous. Sitting on a train and starting up conversations like that.
Ooh, yeah.
You know,
I love that.
Well, anything that we haven't covered you want to tell any of our listeners?
I
know it's a big old open question. I'm sorry, but
no, it's good. I mean, I would just say, especially for people of, you know, maybe my generation or a little bit younger, understanding that it is possible, if becoming like a content creator or a social media influencer, whatever you want to call it, is the path you want to go. It is very doable. It's just a matter of, you have to be self-motivated. It's not going to happen on your own. You don't have a boss telling you what to do. You are your boss. You are responsible for finding work. You're responsible for making sure you have rent for the next month. And if that's something that you're okay with having that type of pressure, then do it. There's a lot of fun stuff behind doing social media, but at the end of the day, it is still a job and it is still work. And you still are required to do your day-to-day tasks. You know, I think a lot of people might think like, oh, she just sits around all day, you know, until she goes on a collaboration. No, I am doing podcasts and I am editing videos, and I mean, there are some days where I give myself a day off, of course, but it is work, but it is doable. And it is kind of the way people are going now with work and jobs, and it's very, very accessible if you put in the time and effort.
Gig work just used to be a thing for musicians, and a lot of us are doing gig work these days, you know.
And now these things and computers and everything allow us to have more opportunities.
Absolutely.
Natalie, I really appreciate you being with us. This was fantastic. It was really good.
This was great. I felt like it was a very easy interview.
Sweet.
We just chatted it up, Mike.
That's all we're trying to do. That's what we do, man.
If you're ever in the Nashville area, you got 2 new friends in the area, so feel free to reach out.
I'm trying to move to Nashville, so
it's the place to be. I'm telling you. Come on.
Yeah.
It is. I fell in love with it while I was there.
Traffic's miserable though, but
yeah, I mean, talk about Portland. Let's get real.
It's the worst.
Yeah. Right.
But
big cities are big cities.
It's
awesome.
fun. It's a cool town. All music everywhere. Restaurants are great. Yeah. It's a great place to be. So
it's a big little city. Yeah, it's a big city, but it's still got some little town vibes.
Maybe I'll let you guys in on like a little bit of a secret then.
Come on.
So we've got a merch line coming out, and we are trying to coordinate pitching it in Nashville on Broadway.
Very cool.
Plug it, Natalie. Plug it.
I can't yet, but I'm letting you guys know first and foremost.
We're going to be looking for it.
I'm excited.
Look for it, and then you guys can come as well. And
absolutely.
Get your Napple gear.
We'll absolutely be looking for it.
I can't wait.
And look, when you need a collaboration, we're 10 miles from Jack Daniels.
Yep.
We're 10 miles from the Bonnaroo Music Festival.
Yep.
There's some collaboration opportunities there. I'm just saying.
Yep.
So.
Okay, I love that. I'll have to reach out to you guys if I hit like a roadblock. Like, where should I go in Nashville for this? Love it.
All right, Natalie, really appreciate your time. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right, you too.
All right, that's been another episode of 2 Mics and a Guest. We'll see you guys soon.